What's going on, everybody? So I was working on a knife today on my small wheel attachment here, and I don't have a work rest for it. And so everything I do on it is freehand. So when I'm cleaning up the handle scales on the profile of a knife, or just cleaning up the profiles of a knife, I have to do everything freehand, and I've gotten pretty good at holding stuff completely perpendicular to it. But every once in a while, I'll lean in a little too much at the top or the bottom, and then I have to go back and fix that. So I want to build a work rest for this. I've never seen how they're attached. So we're just going to kind of go through and design and build something for this, because I've been wanting a work rest for it for a long time, and today is the day. Okay, so here's what we're looking at. This is the small wheel holder or attachment. This is from Beaumont, and I bought this and attached it to an aluminum work arm that I already had here for my OBM grinder. So I guess the first thing that you can see is this is what I'm talking about when I'm profiling blades. It would be nice to have something to rest this on and then be able to run stuff and know that I'm keeping it perpendicular to it and not tilting it one way or the other. So right here, if we drill holes and attach something here, it's going to come out below this small wheel holder. So we have to have something that will bring this out and then up. So I'm thinking maybe some type of work rest platform that attaches to this arm, comes out here, and then another block that goes on top of that we attach our work rest to. And then obviously we're going to have a V-notch cut in it, so it'll go around this. So I think I'm going to mock some stuff out with cardboard, and then we'll look at the scrap pile of steel and see what we can cut up that we can use for this. Okay, so we have this cut out here. These two holes here hold the attachment onto this side of the arm. So I'm going to have to, I made it long enough that I can drill between these two here and then probably one back there, because I want to have two attachment points. This is a little thinner than the material I'm probably going to use. I think the material I have on hand is like 1/4 inch, but I think we'll still be able to make it work. If not, it'll have to mount underneath here. So we're going to test that height there, but it looks like I have enough of a gap that a 1/4 inch piece will work. So anyways, that comes out. I didn't cut this down because I don't know how big we want to make this. And then this work rest here, probably have something about this size. I'm going to hold some blades up and maneuver them around and just make sure that this is big enough to support in all areas when I'm working on stuff. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So like this, if I take this and I'm rotating it around and moving it over here, this is unsupported over here, but it's got a pretty good amount of support here. So I think we should be fine. I might extend this out just a little bit in each direction. I don't think it needs to come out much this way. Maybe if I was running on the end here, but it's still got, good 3-4 inches there. So the next thing to figure out is how big do we want this portion underneath. So I don't think it needs to be extremely large, as long as this top material is thick enough. It should be rigid enough if it has a good support block that's, spans maybe 4 inches underneath it right there. So, all right, keep going. Okay, so this is the one that I just mocked, I just used some scrap here. So it's almost 8 inches. I think that's a good width, 8 inches wide. And then here it is 5 1/4. So I'll probably bump that up to 6. So we'll just do an 8x6 piece for the actual work rest. All right, so I cut this to the same width as the work rest, so 8 inches. It's a little off center, obviously, because we have that mounting over here. But I think that's going to be good. Something like that. And then it doesn't matter where we run this in the belt. I think normally you just run it in the middle of the belt. It would be nice if I could adjust it as it's on here to hit different portions of the belt, because this is going to wear out right in the middle here. It'd be nice if I could have something that, like, I could adjust it down and run it here and then adjust it up and run it there. But I don't think that's in my wheelhouse of expertise right now. So we'll just put it so it's in the middle of the belt somewhere. Maybe on the lower 2/3 in case I have a really thick handle, so it's not running over top of the belt. So maybe we'll mount it so it runs down about there, bottom 3/4 of the belt. From the bottom of this here, let's flip this around, up to the bottom of the small wheel is 3/4 of an inch. And then the material I'm using is 1/4 inch. So if we had a 3/4 inch spacer here, that would bring our work rest up to the bottom of that wheel. And then a 1/4 inch above that would be the top of it at 1 inch. And then we would have 1 3/4 inch of belt above it to use. So we'll see if we have something that's 3/4. If not, we'll find something that's 1 inch. And then we'll just lose about a 1/4 of an inch of belt. But that's okay. Should work out good. All right, we have our rough mock-up here. I think this is going to be good. So this bottom piece, I'm not going to make quite as big. It'll probably only come out to about here. And I may not make it as wide either. But just to kind of cut down on the weight of that. But yeah, and then I think we're going to have to figure out some kind of quick attachment here, because I do use this small wheel for a bunch of different operations, but I would like to be able to just slap this on and, you know, quickly add it and remove it. So we'll figure that out. But yeah, so this will be the top plate, and then these are going to be a little bit bigger. It's going to be 3x5, and then we'll figure out the mounting holes on here. So. All right, we got our 3 pieces. I think that's all we're going to need. I still need to determine where I want to drill my holes, but it's somewhere, you know, like that. And then we'll have to match that up on the work rest. But let's look at what material we got to work with, and then maybe we'll start cutting this out. This is all the scrap steel I got left. This is some stuff out of like an old filing cabinet. They had these weird metal plates in there. I think it was supposed to be like a more secure filing cabinet, but it was heavy as heck. And then I started messing around with it and found these old plates out of there. So I took them out to make it easier for me to carry the filing cabinet upstairs. And now I have scrap steel to make stuff out of. So win-win. I haven't decided how I'm going to quick attach this. I might just use these C-clamps. I have one here that's on this back side. Let's see if we can zoom in for you. So I have one that's right there. And then I have one here. That might be my temporary setup until I figure out exactly how I want to do this. And then I'm messing around with the height. So I have three pieces laying down underneath there. So I think that height is good. It's up far enough on the belt that I'm gonna be on the belt, and then I can use this 1 3/4 inches up here for like thick handles. I'll probably only ever get up to about here, but gives us plenty of room there. Next thing I want to do is just make sure that this is 90 degrees. So find my machinist square here. It's a tiny bit off. I don't know if you can see that. Let's zoom in on it here. Put my light behind it. See that gap at the top, and then down at the bottom it's touching. So we'll probably have to shim this ever so slightly to make sure that it's perfect 90, which is annoying. I have 3 pieces here cut, and I leveled the machine, and then I took and put the work rest on top to make sure that it was maintaining level. And then I also put on a 36 grit belt, which is one of the thickest belts that I use, to make sure that you know, I'm going to be gapping it appropriately. But anyways, so I leveled the original rest down here, and then when I put the top rest on, it's still maintaining level. And so I know that this isn't thicker in one direction or the other and causing it to tilt this way or that way. That wouldn't make too much of a difference running pieces along here. It's more, you know, whether or not it's 90 degrees square to that wheel. But I didn't want to have anything coming into play if this was like way out of level. So ideally, I would take and weld these 3 pieces together, and then either weld it or bolt it from the bottom to the table. But I don't have a welder with me. My buddy's shop, next time I go over there, I'll take it and weld it. But I think what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do some 5-minute epoxy. And I'm going to epoxy these 3 pieces together. So I roughed them up on the grinder. So I have a rough bonding surface. And I'm going to glue these together, put them in the vise, let them cure up, and then we'll work on mounting it to the table, and then the work rest to the top. We're going to use G5, really great epoxy. I don't use it on my knife handles. I still use G-Flex. I'm just a little wary of using a 5-minute epoxy, but this is hands down the best one that I've ever used. So let's get quite a bit of this out there. Equal parts, and we're going to work fast. This project went from being legitimate to a little bit redneck, but this epoxy is almost set up. And when this is G5, it's a 5-minute epoxy. It's the best 5-minute epoxy that I've used, and the reason being is that it sets up within 5 minutes to where it's like not a working time, but you still have to wait for like 8 hours for it to fully cure. But let's pop this out. Yeah, see how it's stuck together, but it's still flexible. So I'm gonna have to let this cure for a while, but we can lay out our holes for attaching it to the plate. So now that I'm looking at it, I probably could have used 1, 2, 3 blocks and done something to mount them, go all the way through and do like a wing nut on the bottom or something like that. But these are the cheapest ones that you can get, and they're still fairly expensive. So this didn't cost me a thing, and we'll see if it works. If it ends up failing, then we'll rebuild it or we'll weld it. So, but anyways, so there's where it's going to sit. I think on the outskirts of it, we're going to drill and tap some holes. Or maybe I'll just do 1 in the center to hold it in place, or 2 in the center. I've decided that we're going to tap them with 1/4-20. I have some other larger ones, but I think 1/4-20 will be good. And a number 7 drill for that. I've laid out where I want my 2 center mounting holes to be, so we're going to center punch those. And now we'll drill and tap those. Okay, that's on there. I'd say that's nice and rigid. So now I have to figure out where I want to drill holes and mount this. I'm going to mount this to where I have an equal gap around the whole belt there, because I want to be able to get belts on and off. So I'm going to try that next. That could be the next difficulty, is getting the belt on and off with this work rest on there, because you want to be able to switch between belts. So we're going to try that out and see what happens. I got a clamp on this so it's not going to come off if I bump it, and we're going to see if we can swap belts. So pull that. It actually seems doable. So that's a 36. Let's throw a 120 on and see what happens. So you kind of got to feed it down in there. And then we'll go over the tracking wheel. Yeah, looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Yeah, I think that'll work. All right, I have these countersunk. My countersink bed is not big enough, so I'm gonna have to grind some of this spalling off. But anyways, I'm getting ready to transfer these holes onto the riser on below. And so around the belt here, I have an even 1/16 of an inch gap between there and the belt. I think that's going to be good enough. So like 60 thou. And I'm going to transfer these down, and then we'll drill into this block underneath the riser and drill and tap it. All right. So we have the hole on this side drilled and tapped. That one's all good to go. And then over here we had an oopsie. I broke this tap off in here, was going a little too fast, and wasn't able to extract it. It was a blind hole, so I drilled a new hole, and I went all the way through just in case we had another oops. But this one went all right, and it's drilled and tapped. So I'm going to throw the top plate on here and show you what it looks like. And the last thing I want to do is fill this hole in because it looks crummy. and I don't want it collecting a whole bunch of junk. So I think I'm just going to fill it in with epoxy, and then we need to check whether or not this is square here. So let's check if it's square. Looks like, I don't know if you can see back behind there. We have a little bit of a gap at the top. So I'll have to shim this so it tilts this up this way. Since it's touching at the bottom and then there's a gap at the top, I need this to tilt up this direction. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to try just a piece of like aluminum can underneath. I like using that as a shim, works pretty well. So I ended up using 4 layers of can, and I think we're good right there. That's really nice and perpendicular, good 90-degree square angle there. I didn't realize that can thickness is like 2/1000ths. I measured it with the calipers and it's measuring out at like 2/1000ths. I definitely thought it was thicker. So with 4 layers there, we have about 8/1000 shim. Lifting this back edge up, and now we're good. Okay, here we go. Everything's all finished up. Obviously we have the base plate here that attaches to the arm. I'm just going to use clamps for now and see how that works out in the long run. Maybe we'll come up with something else for attachment, but right now the clamps, just regular old C-clamps, feel really solid. This is the riser or the spacer, 3 separate plates that are epoxied together, but having these 2 holes drilled and tapped all the way through is holding that better. Ideally, this should be welded or one solid piece of like aluminum, because this is pretty heavy, having the 1/4-inch steel. And then the top plate and our little shim spacers here for the front edge of that, since we're out of square a little bit. So that's it. I'm going to put it together on the grinder and show you guys how it works. Okay, so there it is, fully assembled. Not the cleanest looking thing, but I think it's going to work really good. Okay, so one thing that you have to make sure that you do is put your small wheel in beforehand. That's something about this that is a little annoying. Is there's a bigger gap obviously with a smaller wheel. This indexes, this edge right here indexes up against here, and then this edge right here indexes up against this. So there's not enough room once it's installed to get your small wheels on. So if you were going to swap them out, you'd have to remove this, which is a little bit annoying. But I foresee myself only using this size wheel here, which is what we size this notch for and design this for. So anyways, we put this in, index it up on those 2 edges, and then I just use a C-clamp on this back side here. And then another one up here to keep it from rotating. So there we go. I mean, she's nice and solid. And let's throw a belt in there. Okay, so the reason you would use this is to clean up the profiles around a blade. So if you wanted to, get in here and clean up different areas around the profile of this blade. And then the same goes for if you put handle material on to a knife handle here and the scales are extended past the tang, you have to come in here and clean up that area and get it so it's flush with the tang. So like, let's take a look at this here. This is one of my ghosts, and I have these laser cut, and they have these little tabs on them where they left that so it would hold it into the sheet of steel, and then they pop them out afterwards. So let's go ahead and try this out and clean up the profile on this knife and then see how it looks afterwards. So there, no more tabs left. Spine's really nice and clean, and this is just a 120 grit belt. We can go up to like 400 on there and it would look great. So, but yeah, I think it's working good. Well, there you have it. Nice sturdy work rest for the small wheel attachment. I'm super excited. I've wanted one of these for a while now. Doing everything freehand takes a lot of focus, and the process is slower because I take my time to make sure that I get everything just right. And so having something like this will help with consistency and speed of those processes, which I'm excited about. The other nice thing about this too is I designed this specifically for this machine and how I wanted it to work. And the material I already had on hand, and I got it for free. The only thing that I paid for was like $4 for the attachment hardware, probably less than $1 in epoxy, and $9 for that tap that I broke off in there. That was the most expensive part of this. But yeah, if you have some scrap laying around, you can mock it up with cardboard just like I did and design it so it fits your machine how you want it to work, which is great. I highly recommend doing that. I like building tooling and attachments and stuff like that for my equipment when I can. And as you saw, I got around it. Even though I don't have a welder, I still have a nice, usable, sturdy work rest here. So if this helped you out, if you build one of these, let me know. If it helped you out, I'd appreciate a like and a share, subscribe to my channel, and yeah, follow along for more knife content. We got some build videos coming out soon. And if I ever do anything like this, I'll film it and throw it up on the channel. So hope you guys have a great week, and we'll catch you in the next one.